Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. We are doing my December reading wrap up. So the last wrap up for 2024 and it's obviously going live in 2025. We're ready for a new year of reading and books to be read. I had 27 reads in December and I honestly think this is one of the months that I read the least amount of books physically because most of it was on Kindle. I have a fair amount of physical books in front of me and I still read all the books on Kindle. I'm just back in my Kindle era. I wanted to be comfortable. We're making use of the Kindle stands and the Kindle remotes. We need good posture, no neck injuries. I'm literally like this, I'm like cramped up from like physically reading on my paperback. So I have found Kindle reading a lot more comfortable and easier to read. And I have been reading a lot of Kindle Unlimited reads and making use of my Kindle Unlimited subscription. I've done a big unhaul and sort of cleared out my books and reads that I'm not gonna read again. I put a bunch of books on my Vinted and they went within the hour. Like everything sold through really quickly. It is also the last month where you can shop my bookish merch collection with an embroidery. So my 5 stars is a feeling t-shirts and jumpers and also the Absolutely Feral Reader design. Both will be ending in January. So you only have a couple weeks left to shop them and then that will be the collection gone. It was only meant to be a limited drop for my book merch and we have extended it a little bit longer than initially planned, and I'm so very thankful and grateful for everyone who has ordered pieces from there, supporting small businesses and small creators, and there is literally nothing that makes my day more than people sending me photos of them getting their merch and wearing them. I'm absolutely obsessed. Everyone came up with better color combos than I did. But yeah, this will technically be a limited edition collection. It's not going to be around forever. If you've had your eye on it or wanted to pick up some bookish merch, this is one of your last chances that you're gonna get to. But enough yapping, let's jump into the wrap up. I read a lot of Christmas books and Christmas novellas, like I said, and Kindle Unlimited series, so I wanted to make December and also January the month where I continue or finish up series that I'm in the middle of reading. I really want to prioritize the book series that I'm in the middle of, figure out what series I want to DNF, what series I want to continue, and get through them, finish those stories while everything's still fresh in my head and remember them, so then that way I can spend 2025 picking up new series and not feeling like I have 20 plus books that I need to read that I've just picked up and put back down again. I finished the Maid series. Book number 3 is The Darkest Temptation and it is a mafia romance. It's a dark romance, but I think that this is a good darker romance to get started with. Like if you want to get into dark romance and don't know what to read, the Maid series is really great. It's not super dark, it's just mafia romance. So the first book in the series is mafia romance in the States and like your typical mobster mafia, what you would expect stereotype. And then the third book is Russian mafia. It's interconnected and it follows like 3 different main characters each book and each story, but they're all connected and you get little cameos and crossovers. I feel like you're either a Nico, a Christian, or a Ronan girly, and I am a Ronan girly. I loved this book. This was 4.5 stars. My favorite out of all 3 of them, but I adore this series. I think it was fun to read. If you love romance again, it does follow like a typical romance formula, but just has a bit of a darker nature in the world and the content. Like it is adult, so it does get a little bit spicy, but you're following gangs and mafia and there's guns and there's violence and stuff, but it's not like super dark. I read a super dark series in December and it makes this look like absolutely nothing. So a really fun one if you want to like dip your toes into mafia romance or darker romance. A book that surprised me was actually Blood of Hercules. I don't think this will be for everyone. It is reverse harem. Reverse harem is one main female character with 3 or more male men love interests, and it's like a wide shoes. Like there is not one man that she's going to end up with at the end. It's probably going to be all 4 of them. And typically I don't really like reverse harem. I'm learning so much because apparently there are series where the main female character can end up with 2 love interests, but it's not reverse harem because that has to be 3. Education time with Emmy. Reverse harem, typically I've found main female character is with all the men, but all the men are also with each other. You know, you're picking what I'm putting down. How do I say this without getting like demonetized? Polyamorous, but it's not like sister wives where the one person just has individual relationships with them all at the same time. No, they're like all one big, like we all love each other. Yeah, we don't really get much of that in this book. I feel like book 2 we're gonna start seeing the reverse harem. Book 1 was a much longer, slower burn than I was anticipating, and I think that's why I loved it so much. Is this great literature? No. Is it a fun time? Yeah. People on TikTok are getting really mad over this book. They're saying there's like TikTok writing and stuff in it. It's just casual. It is fun. The main female character hates men. There's literally a scene in this where she's like, I stopped listening because a man was talking. And I just love her so much. She's so real. There are so many scenes and moments like that. I'm like, yeah. And it is comedic. Like it's not supposed to be super serious, deep. It is dark, but it is funny. Like funny, haha. There's so many giggly moments that happen in this. So I think if you're going in wanting this like big mythology reimagining with this serious, darker, romantic-y vibe, if you want a fun, giggly time that's a little bit trashy, then yeah. I do think that it will be spicier though, and really start to get into the reverse harem with the second book, because the ending of this one went crazy. Did not see that coming, but also did, because we kind of know what happens in books like this. But at the same time, it was like, oh, me just talking about this book for an insanely large amount of time. I need to move on. Speaking of fun, darker romance stories, I listened to Lights Out. And I also read part of it. Like, I was doing a bit of a read along because everyone was saying that you need to listen to the audiobook for this, but I'm not an audiobook girly. I like to read my books. I just feel like I cannot focus or concentrate on the story. I'm not as invested if I'm listening to it in audio. I wanted to experience why everyone was saying the audiobook in this was hilarious, and I had seen clips of it on TikTok and heard it. And I was like, oh, this sounds like it could be fun, but I still need to read the book. So I did a little read along. So I was listening to my Kindle while hearing it, and yeah, you know what a read along is. And that was fun. The voice actor who voiced the main male character in this, 5 stars. He was fabulous. Like, he put his whole voiceover actor ussy into it. Like, that was so good. He deserves like an award or something. That was so perfect. Perfect casting. My ADHD is literally all over the place today, so good luck. I do think Lights Out was a 3.5 star read for me, just because the last 30% of the book I feel like could have been cut out. The book could have ended at 60-70%. That would have wrapped up the story really nice, and it probably could have been like a 4 or 5 star read for me. But the ending I was very confused by, because there was nothing really happening. We're just sort of following characters in the motion, and it almost felt like the ending was forced a little bit to set up for the next book. So I believe there's going to be a book 2 that's interconnected, standalone. Like, we met the character towards the end of book 1 of who's going to be the main character in book 2, but it did just feel a little bit unnecessary. So it kind of lost me towards the end there, but I had a really fun time with it. If you haven't watched the reading vlog of me reading that, or you haven't heard of this book because you live under a rock or you're not on TikTok, it's about a main male character who basically does thirst trap TikToks, but he does thirst traps wearing a mask. He's one of those. Like, in real life, you see them on your For You page and you're like, ugh, jump scare. But you read it in a book and you're like, that's funny. Fair enough, fair play. But anyways, he's one of those, and he finds out that his best friend slash roommate's ex-situationship, who he's had a crush on, is obsessed with his masked account and like has a crush on the masked account, but she doesn't know it's him. He finds out that she's into that, and he sees her comments on his videos, and her comments are things like, if he broke into my house, like I would love that. So he decides to actually do that and low-key stalks her, but she is wanting him to. They're both enjoying it, and they're communicating via social media. There's literally a scene where he breaks into her house, and while he's breaking into her house, he's getting annoyed at how easy it is to break into her house, that he buys her like a home security set. Because he's like, I can break into her house, but no one else can. It's so funny. There's like low-key stalking in it, but it's consensual stalking, and it's not like actual stalking. It's a fun, again, dark comedy romance. What a genre. I read Into the Fire. It's not my favorite. I would have loved this more if it was written as a YA book, because it's an adult book. It's dystopian, and it follows like a main female character and a main male character who are sort of tied together from this incident that happened many years ago, and our main female character is trying to find out answers to what happened. The main male character knows answers but can't tell her for her own safety because he's in this rebellion. And when you're in this rebellion, you have to swear your life to them. There's no escaping or leaving. And the rebellion is uncovering this terrorist organization that is in the mainstream media, government, all this thing. So it's a very, very dangerous situation. It is dystopian. Really liked the first half, but when the romance started to come in and it got quite adult, it just didn't match up for me, because the age that the characters were, with the dialogue that we were experiencing, with then the adult content, it felt disconnected. I think it would have worked better as a YA because the dialogue felt quite young. It was a 2.75 read for me. I need to remind people that half of 5 is 2.5. So a 2.5 star read is an okay read. That is half of 5. That is not bad for me personally. That's how my rating system works. I finished the Defy the Night trilogy. I read Destroy the Day, which is book 3, and this was a 3.75 star read for me. I'm glad that we wrapped up the series. I don't know why the series is always advertised as being like in the fantasy genre, but it's not. It's just like a Robin Hood reimagining. It's not really any fantasy elements in it, but it is set in like a kingdom with a prince and a king. There is injustice, and our main female character is working as like an outlaw to try and steal from the rich to give to the poor in terms of like medicine, and she's working as like a healer to try and help the kingdom because everyone feels like the rich are just hoarding supplies and resources and giving nothing to the poor. So there's like rebellion, there's a lot of unhappy people, there's a lot of politics. This is a very political YA fantasy, a lot of chats between different houses. So if you like more political fantasy vibes, I think you would enjoy this, but I'd say it's like a 3.5 star series overall. I read the Under the Mistletoe novellas. This is a compilation of like 5 novellas by 5 different authors. Ali Hazelwood was the first one, that was 4 stars. The second one was Tessa Bailey, and that was 2.5 stars. The third novella was Olivia Dade, All by My Elf, and that was a 1 star. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I just don't understand anything about that story. Number 4 was by Alexandria Bellefleur, and that was 3 stars. I actually did enjoy that one. And then the 5th one, Alexis Daria, was 3.25 stars. So they are all under 100 pages each. They were quite short novellas, and it was interesting to read 5 different stories, and they did get me into the festive spirit. So I think they served its purpose, but I would say maybe like a 3 star for the series overall. I also read the Chestnut Springs Christmas novella. That was on Elsie Silver's website. It was only up for a limited time, I think, but that was a 4 star read for me. Oh my god, the characters and the like, getting a glimpse into what the Chestnut Springs characters are up to and where they are in their lives and the developments of like families and children and stuff. Obsessed. Anything that brings me back into Chestnut Springs, I love it. I never want to leave. The whole found family or actual family in this, I love them all. Feels like coming home again. Reading this book, I was like, I'm coming home for Christmas. This is where I'm meant to be. You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. I still don't understand why it has a different name in the US and the UK. This was 4.5 stars. One of my favorite Emily Henry reads, I think. It's up there. I cried a couple times over this book, I can't lie. There's just something about characters that have history together. Like, this was very much giving Happy Place. Then and now timeline, 2 people with a long standing history. Are they? Will they? Won't they? What's gonna happen? Lots of yearning, and I'm just, honestly, if this was real life, I would want to smash my head into a wall, because what do you mean you've been in love with each other for 12 years? And you haven't said anything. I was reading it and I'm like, what? What is going on? My heart hurt for them, and I'm so happy for them. And I love the main male character in this. I'm so excited this is being turned into like a film adaptation, because the whole time I was reading it, I was just thinking, wow, I can see this like a movie in my head. I love reading. I love when it does that. And because I knew who were cast for the characters, I was picturing them as I was reading it too, because I'm pretty sure they said that like Alex has like golden hair, but I'm like, no, it's Tom Blythe. He has dark hair. So I'm just like ignoring the character descriptions and I'm like, Tom Blythe, yeah. I love Tom Blythe. That's the second physical book that I've picked up so far, and we are like halfway through. I read Fear the Flames as well, but I also read it on my Kindle because I found out it was on Kindle Unlimited. I read so many Kindle books this month, guys. We all know how conflicted I was to pick this up. I went and got this book on release day. I was so excited. It was one of my most anticipated reads of 2024. I had heard so many amazing things about the indie version of this book that when it came out, I had heard from friends who had read the indie version say that the traditional version was disappointing for them because a lot was cut out and edited. Tammy told me that the indie version was basically 200 extra pages of slow burn and tension and yearning and, you know, build up to the relationship and fun stuff that just got cut out. So going into this, my expectations were really low, and I think that's why I ended up being pleasantly surprised. I think if you're going in expecting a dragon heist fantasy with like a enemies to lovers slow burn romance, you're going to be sorely disappointed because that's not what this book is. And that is how this book has been like marketed or advertised. This has ball scenes, they go dress shopping. It is reluctant allies who have a clear attraction and interest in each other from the jump. We have a man who is such a simp for the main female character. He is a pathetically obsessed male, and I love that. So I enjoyed this. There are like 2 little mini heists, but it wasn't as action filled as I thought it was going to be. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. So for me, it was 4 stars, and I'm excited to continue reading the series and see where it goes. I did read this one physically. Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is a Regency fairy tale fantasy. So it's like very Bridgerton-esque. It follows our main female character who had half of her soul taken away as a child by this like fae, fairy, lord person, creepy man. This fairy fae man came one day to try and take her whole soul, and he ended up only getting half her soul before she escaped. So she's been going through life with half a soul, and that means that she doesn't feel the same feelings. She doesn't understand social cues. She struggles with like empathy and sympathy and embarrassment and these normal feelings and emotions. She has half of them. So going through this Regency time period where there's a certain way to address people in society and act and present and mannerisms, she doesn't understand or have or do any of that. She crosses the line, she says things she's not supposed to. She doesn't act like a normal person in this world and gets into a lot of trouble for it. And she ends up meeting our main male character who a lot of people in this world do not like because they just think he's rude and he's brash, and he also doesn't act the way he's supposed to in this polite society. And the 2 of them end up teaming up to try and see if they can like recover her soul and figure out this mystery. But I think if you're neurodivergent, you might enjoy reading this. As an ASD girly, I was like, there is so much in this that is just like autism coded. While I was reading this, I was like, yeah, I understand that. Like, I feel that. I'm not typically a cozy fantasy romance reader, but I really enjoyed this one. This was 4 stars. I read the Lord Sorcier novella afterwards. The whole series, I believe, has other books in it, but they're like interconnected standalone books. So this is a standalone, and there is another book in this same world, but it follows other characters. But I did see there was a novella that you could read following the main male character in this book, and it's a story that was mentioned in the book itself. There was an incident that happened as like a prequel, and this novella is the prequel for that. So reading the book and hearing about how things went, and then picking up the novella and going back and getting the background into the main male character and how he met his best friend in this situation that happened to get them to where they are now in the actual story itself was really fun and cute. I really enjoyed that, and I gave that a 3 star. This is arguably one of my favorite reads of the month / of 2024. I read the Legacy of God series. I only have the first 3 books, and then Bestie Larry sent me God of Fury, and these are getting traditionally republished, so they're not the same covers, but she wanted me to have her favorite book because God of Fury is one of her favorites. She's got a tattoo for it, and I loved God of Fury. So we have God of Malice, God of Pain, God of Wrath, God of Ruin, God of Fury, and then God of War. And I've read all 6 of them, and I'm patiently waiting for my pre-orders of the other books to come so I have the full collection. This is a dark double dark romance. I believe the original version of God of Malice, like the traditional indie version, had non-con written into it, and that was changed. This doesn't have anything non-consensual in it. It's dubious, but it's there. And welcome to dark romance. If that is not your thing, this series will not be for you. There are insane trigger warnings for this. please, with any book you're reading, make sure you're checking the trigger warnings. I read a lot of dark romantasy and now dark romance. These are kind of like bully romances. I feel like if you liked Zodiac Academy and you liked how crazy the airs were in that and the bully romance from that, this probably won't even faze you, because I read it and I was like, oh, but then I was like, this is set in a college as well with a group of guys. It's mafia as well, mafia romance in a college setting. I don't even know how to explain this. I feel like any way that I explain this, you'll be like, why would anyone want to read that? But then you read it and you get it. There's something about the way that Rena Kent writes her books that is just addictive. You can't put it down. It's like watching a car crash. You're like, oh my god, I shouldn't be reading this and I shouldn't be enjoying this, but why is it kind of fun? The main male character in this one is an actual psychopath. And I love that. I eat it up. God of Fury is definitely the least dark of her series in the dark romance. It honestly really wasn't that dark at all. It was just like a cute little romance. And these two are my favorite. The most dark in the series and the least dark. And again, interconnected, so they all follow a different set of characters and couple, but they're all in a bigger group of friends. And there's like two rival colleges. One is like British elite and the other is mafia heirs, like New York mafia and Russian mafia heirs, and they're rivals. Brits hate the Americans hate the Brits. And in this, basically, the Brits and the Americans hate each other and end up dating each other. It's great. It's so fun. There's so much drama. That's a 6-star series for me. God of Malice, 5 stars. God of Pain, 4.25 stars. God of Wrath, 5 stars. God of Ruin, 4.5 stars. God of Fury, 5 stars. And then God of War, 3.75 stars. This one was like, felt completely different to the other books. It was different. It was given a different vibe. I think that's why it was my least favorite, but 6-star series. I love it. I read The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. This was described to me as a cute little Christmas rom-com meets Knives Out, or like an Agatha Christie mystery. And that's exactly what it was. I actually pleasantly really enjoyed this. I think this is my favorite Christmas book that I have ever read. I've not read that many, but we read a few Christmassy stuff in the month of December, and this is probably the one that I would definitely recommend out of all of them, like to read next year. And that was a 3.75 star. I read My December Darling. That was our book club book of the month for like a little Christmas read, and that was 3 stars for me. I've not read any of Lauren Ash's books before. I've not read any of her books before, but this did make me want to maybe go and add some of her books to read as romance palette cleansers. I believe this one is set in the same world as one of her current series, so there was like little crossovers or something, but it was a 3-star read for me. It was cute. I like the fact that it was set in Christmas but wasn't revolving around Christmas specifically, but it was just a Christmas book. Christmas books just don't hit as hard for me as normal books. Oh, my legs are cramping up sitting on the floor. I cannot stay still. A book that did hit for me though was Reign of Shadows and Endings, the Legacy series. So this is a dark fantasy romance. Again, dark. I love it. 6 stars. 6 stars. I'm finishing book 3 today and book 4 comes out. It's gonna be the final book in 2025 in August, I believe. I love this series so much. In this world, there are Legacy who are like at the top. They are descendants of gods. Then there is Fae, then there is mortals. And everyone leaves the mortals alone, which is so different. The Fae are basically there to serve the Legacy. They're basically meant to be slaves for the Legacy. Once they reach a certain age, they'll come into their powers, their Fae powers, and then kind of be told, with your power and now you're of this certain age, you're gonna go serve this specific kingdom in this way. They don't really have much choice or freedom. They kind of just have to do what they're told. But certain Fae are chosen by the powerful Legacy to serve as their sources, which means their powers end up getting connected. You can read each other's minds, you can communicate via your mind, you can feel their feelings, you can feel their emotions. Basically become like one soul, and the purpose of that is because the Fae can regenerate their power differently to Legacies. Legacy are more powerful, but they drain faster. So powerful Legacy will have a source and then they can use their power. But our main male character sees her and goes, I want her to be my source. And she ends up getting taken and she's like, you know what? Nah, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not going to be your source. Who are you to say that Legacy are more important than Fae? I'm a real person with thoughts and feelings and emotions, and I'm going to fight you every step of the way. And I love her and I love it. Do I want to put my head in a blender when I'm reading this book? Because of Theon? Yes, all the time. Oh my god, that man makes me want to smash my head into a wall. I am Team Luca. I love Luca. The lore in this book and the history and the magic system and everything goes into so much depth, and I had such a fun time with it. This is one of my new favorite series. My favorite read that we've read in book club so far. My book club is free to join. Anyone can join. It's hosted through Fable, and I always have a link to it down in my description. So if you want to read books along with me, and then you get a little exclusive bonus reading vlog that's only accessible to book club members, then definitely check that out and come and join book club. I read Blood and Honey. This was a okay read. I'm honestly gonna say 2.5 because it wasn't anything special. I was just trying to continue a series I was in the middle of reading. I think I gave Serpent and Dove book 1 4 stars, so it wasn't anywhere near as good as book 1. There was a few issues I had with the book, like it wasn't my favorite, the development of certain characters. It did end on a cliffhanger, so I probably will just read the third and final book because then I can tick that series off. It was a series I soft DNF'd for a little bit. I'm not very good at DNFing series, but I don't really have too many thoughts or opinions on this. It was like an okay series. Would I go out of my way to recommend it? Probably not, but if you like witch and witch hunter stories, then you might like this. My most favorite part about this series is the fact that it's set in like France and there's French, and I like that part of it. And then the final book is The Right Move. It's book 2 in the Windy City series. I loved this. I think the characters in this were very Hallie and Henry coded. Reading this, I was like, I got similar feelings when I was reading Daydream by Hannah Grace, because we have like our main female character who goes above and beyond for the people around her and is a carer and is so trusting and wants to look after other people and will do whatever she can for them and doesn't get much in return. And then we have our main male character who is more closed off and quiet and keeps to himself. He needs control. He takes the burden and the weight of the pressure of his sports team and tries to be perfect and reflect this certain image so, you know, everyone else around him can be okay, and he just keeps his head down and does what he thinks he needs to do. And I just love that these two characters brought out the best of each other but also complemented the worst of each other. Like they made each other better in every way, and I just love reading books where I feel like two characters specifically are so perfect for each other. I love reading writing like that where I'm like, it's just perfect. Like these two characters were meant to be together. You feel like they are soulmates. Loved the story. We had like a bit of fake dating. Again, it's a sports romance. He's a billionaire. Girl can dream, honestly. I think this is going to be my new favorite interconnected romance series to binge read or to read in between my other fantasy books and darker romantasy and things. So I am excited to continue this series, and it will be one that I will be prioritizing. That is the reading wrap up for December. We are already in January, so I don't know how many books we're going to be reading in January, but my goal for 2025 is just to read 150 books this year. I read 250 in 2024, so I don't know how many books that we'll be continuing to read next year or this year. I can't even wrap my head around what day it is, but that is the reading wrap up done. I will see you guys in a couple days for our next video. We've got a lot of reading vlogs to come because I have been reading so many books behind the scenes. I'm very excited to share them with you. See you guys.